The final short-term decision we're going to talk about is whether to make or buy a product. They would also call outsourcing a product. So the decision is whether to buy a product or service or to produce it in-house. And at the heart of the decision is how to best use the available resources. We're going to look at how our variable costs compare with the outsourcing cost. We're also going to see if our fixed costs, any of it can be avoided if we outsource it. And then finally, if we outsource it, we would have some freed capacity. Is there anything we could do with the freed capacity? For example, maybe produce some other products for a different company, thereby increasing our revenues. So those are the three things you need to consider. You need to see whether your variable cost compare with your outsourcing cost. Are there any fixed costs that you can avoid? And what could you do with the freed capacity? Your decision rule for whether should the company outsource or not is if the incremental cost of making the product exceeds the incremental cost of outsourcing, then you should outsource it. If the incremental cost of making are less than the incremental cost of outsourcing, then do not outsource. You make it in-house. This is another method of looking at that same decision. What you're going to say is that if your variable cost plus fixed cost of making it in-house is greater than the variable cost plus fixed cost of outsourcing, then you would outsource your product. If it's the opposite, so if the variable cost plus fixed cost of making it in-house is less than the variable cost plus fixed cost of outsourcing, then you would decide to make it in-house. What you would do when you're faced with a problem is you would change the sign to equal. So you would change this particular sign to equal and you would solve for the equation, and that would help you determine whether you should outsource or make it in-house. And we will do an example next to illustrate that. Be sure to pause the video to read through the questions so that you understand what's going on next. Let's see what sort of information they have provided. This particular company currently manufactures circuits in-house, but is considering whether to outsource these circuits from a different company. The price that this outsourcing company will give us the circuits is $28 per circuit. Currently, our company produces these circuits in-house, and the cost of producing these include $26 per circuit for variable costs and $5,000 per month of fixed costs. If we outsource, we can cut our fixed costs in half. There is no alternative use for the facilities presently being used, and the question they ask is, should the company outsource a circuit or make them in-house? Whenever you're looking at a solution for this, you should always compare the variable cost plus fixed cost of making it in-house to the variable cost plus fixed cost of outsourcing. So first, let's look at the cost of making it in-house. At the current volume of 100 microwaves, the variable cost of making in-house is 26 times $100. The fixed cost is $5,000, therefore coming up with the total cost of making it in-house to be equal to $7,600. Now let's look at the outsourcing side. On the outsourcing side, our contract price is $28, and we have to have still 100 units, so we're going to have 28 times 100. But don't forget, we have some fixed costs that are unavoidable. Our fixed cost, what is the new fixed cost going to be if we outsource? It's going to be half the current fixed cost of making it in-house. So our fixed cost is going to be $2,500, giving us $5,300. Now you're going to compare your in-house cost to your outsourced cost to figure out whether you should make it in-house or outsource it. You look at the two numbers and you see that your in-house costs are more than your costs to outsource it. So your decision should be to outsource the product. Keep in mind that this is a quantitative analysis. you do need to keep in mind that there are other qualitative factors that you need to consider before making this final decision.